Hey guys, welcome back to the East Coast Browncast. Boy, do we have a bunch of topics that we would like to cover with y'all today. I hope you guys are doing well. We're going to start off with a few, we're going to do a few topics. We're going to see what the West standings are like, what we're feeling for Thanksgiving, the unfortunate state of injuries, and well, I'll go to the topic that I know my man Aray is very, very excited to talk about, which is the Jayson Tatum MVP status update. Which one of y'all want to hit this one?
Man, let me start off, man. Just let me get all my hyperness and my excitement for this topic out of the way. First of all, I want to say that I called this. I mean, I don't want to take too much credit because going into the end of last season in the finals, while the Celtics lost, which I didn't want to bring that up, but yeah, they lost. We didn't really hear a lot about Tatum kind of grinding through the offseason. You know what I mean? Like when LeBron lost his first finals, you heard a lot about him grinding. Same with
Hmm.
Kobe and all these other great players, but we didn't really hear too much about Tatum. He was hanging out with like Jay-Z. He was getting clowned on a little bit on social media and stuff like that, but we didn't really hear too much about him. But seeing him come into the preseason games and the first few games of the season, he looked like a different man, and that was really exciting as a Celtics fan to see that happen. He looked like he was a man on a mission, and I could keep going on about this on and on forever, pretty much. But it's not just his mentality that's changed, but it's also his play style. He seems a lot more confident. He's taking it to the rim a lot more, fighting through contact, which is something that he hasn't really done
Dude, I
as
was just about to
much.
bring that up too. Yeah.
Right, he hasn't really done that as much in his first few seasons in the NBA. So this is a huge improvement. But I think it really all starts with his mentality.
Can't believe he's only 19. I'm sorry, I had to make that joke. But yeah, Tatum. I remember in the beginning of the season when we were drafting for fantasy, and you were like, "I'm picking Tatum first overall," and everyone was like, "What the heck? What's he doing? That's like a second rounder." And oh my God, have you proved us wrong? Like this guy is amazing. I think the reason people don't talk about Tatum as much is he's like really soft spoken. Like he doesn't seem like one of those characters like a Luka Doncic or a Giannis. Like he's not always on the media, but which he should be definitely. But yeah, key differences that I'm seeing this season is that he's not playing as much iso ball. Like he's playing iso ball when needed, and he's scoring and he's doing everything. He's taking it to the rim, but at the same time, he's also like getting his teammates involved, especially Jaylen Brown. Like both of them are working great together. And this Celtics team is looking scary, and they don't even have Rob Williams yet. So like Tatum right now, I think he's number two with this on the MVP standings. But I could definitely see him number one because I think Mavericks are like all the way in ninth seed. So I don't see Luca holding that number one spot.
That's fair. That's fair. Array, I did like the fact that you pointed out the fact that what's his name? Tatum is finishing better through contact because that was one of the main things that was pointed out. Like I think by B-ball breakdown towards like the stuff that he saw in the finals last year. He's like you just see him getting bodied on like rebounds and everything, and like some of them were pretty cheeky plays that probably should have been called a foul, but I'm like it's a finals, like it's an entertainment value. So thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up, but that one part up specifically, I wanted to talk about it. Well, that's kind of all the comments I had about that one.
Well, it's kind of funny because it wasn't that he wasn't just, not being able to body through and get that contact and finish through it. It was that he wasn't seeking that contact at all. And even when he did, like you said before, he wouldn't finish through it. But now it seems like he's seeking it out. I'm looking at the statistics from last season and this season in terms of free throw attempts. And last season he was only averaging about let me just double check this. He's averaging about 6.2 attempts from free throw. And this season he's doing about 8.8 attempts. So that's almost a 1.5 increase in free throw attempts. And I know that doesn't really sound like a lot, but that just goes to show that he's seeking out contact a lot more. And yeah, there was that rule implement like that change through the rules and stuff with the clear pass stuff and the fouling to stop the fast break. But I don't really think those are the attempts, and I don't really think that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's looking jacked, honestly. Like he looks so much stronger. He's more defined. I just hope he doesn't get hurt. Considering how many injuries are in the NBA right now. But he looks like he's in shape. So yeah, hopefully he can keep this up till the end of the season. And definitely if he keeps this up, his stats and his like team's success hints towards a MVP run.
Dude, honestly, you just love to see it. Like you just love to see it when it gets better and better, like season by season. So I think we're gonna let's hop over to the west side and and honestly, I have no idea how to interpret what's going on with the standings over there. What is going on?
Dude, it's just straight up a clusterfuck. It's like the top, maybe top 10, not even the top 11 teams are all within like a game or two. It's crazy. From the first place Suns as of today, and then the 11th place Warriors. The Warriors are 3 games behind the Suns, and we're not like 2 3 games into the season. We're almost 20 games into the season, so it's definitely interesting. We've got a lot of teams that have been surprising and a lot of teams that have been disappointing. So I don't really know what's going to happen at the end of the season, who's going to be where, especially with everything that's going on with, like trades being thrown out there and injuries happening. But it's definitely a clusterfuck. And it makes the season more entertaining. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's still too early. Like I know it's almost been 20 games, or it's been 20 games for some teams, but I think it's still too early. Like you're seeing a lot of teams like the Jazz, like they've been on a like 3 game losing streak. Sacramento, I still think Sacramento is going to be like top 8. They're going to be in the playoffs or play-ins, but like they've also lost too. So I think like things are starting to balance out. Warriors are starting to get their groove on. We've seen Wiggins go off. We've seen Klay Thompson go off. So I think Warriors are like finally, getting back into it. Their whole championship thing is kind of like dying down. Now they're like focusing what's on hand and what to do now to like secure that playoff spot and a good seeding. So I think teams are finally starting to like, figure things out. And yeah, I think like give it by New Year's and you'll see Warriors definitely top 8. You'll see Jazz fall out of it and maybe put a play in contention. And I don't know what's happening with Mavericks. They went to the Western Conference Final last year, and now they're like really struggling. I think a lot of it has to do with like Christian Wood not getting enough playing time. But yeah, I think teams are figuring themselves out, but it's going to be really competitive in the for the I guess bottom 4 play-in spots.
And let me ask you something, Narf. Do you actually believe in this Mavs team, or are you just kind of throwing them up there because they have Luca?
So that's the thing. If you have a player like Luca, you can't count them out, right? But the thing is, he can only do so much, and I don't know what Jason Kidd is doing. Like, I actually don't even know what the Mavs are doing because, like, you have a player like Christian Wood who could easily put up big numbers if you gave him playing time. But some games he's playing 17 minutes, some games he's playing 25 to 30 minutes. Like, I don't understand the inconsistency. I don't know if you have any insight on, but yeah, I don't know what's happening with the Mavs. If they can figure out, you know, whatever their roles are, and I still don't see them as a championship contender just because their roster isn't good enough. But I don't know what to say about them. They just don't look good right now.
I think it's a combination of both, like lackluster personnel in terms of the supporting cast, and I hate to throw Jason Kidd underneath the bus, but I'm gonna drive over him. I honestly don't think he knows what he's doing. Like he had when he was coaching Giannis, he was never able to get a decent sort of like offensive system around him, and like I just feel like he needs to take a few more like assistant coaching gigs before he goes up to like head coach, because I just like no matter what he does, like with the personnel that he has, like I don't know why he's not able to produce. Like, well, if not at a higher rate, with, he had Giannis, now he has Luka. Like they're like they're almost like the standards bearer for that exact position that they're playing, and I honestly think it's it's partially coaching as well as like the supporting cast, because like can name one other person on the Mavs team that's not Christian Wood and Luka Doncic.
Spencer Dinwiddie, but that's besides the point. I agree and disagree with you on what you're saying, but um, I think Jason Kidd is great in developing like one player like Giannis or Luca, even though they were great on their own. But I think he brings the best out of their like the star players that he gets. But it's the rest of the team, as you said, like he doesn't know what to do with the rest of the players, and he doesn't know how to like integrate them with his star players. So definitely agree with you on that point. But also at the same time, it's just the off season, like they didn't do much. They brought in Christian Wood, but like like what was the point if you're not going to use them? So yeah, the Mavs, I don't know what the hell they're doing, and I don't think they're going to figure it out either. It's they don't have enough resources, in my opinion.
Yeah, let me ask you guys another question. I know I'm just on a tangent of these questions, but you kind of unlocked something in my brain, Shaman, when you talked about Spencer Dinwiddie being on that on the Mavs. So the reason he was brought onto that team was because of that Porzingis trade. And looking back, would you guys still make that trade where Porzingis was sent over to Washington for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans? And we all know Bertans hasn't even been playing, which is insane for the amount of money he's getting paid. But would you still make that trade? Yes or no?
Okay, I'll answer first, and I'm gonna go with a hell no because Porzingis. The thing with Porzingis is he can't stay healthy, but when he does, and he can perform, and I think getting rid of him and like I thought, bringing Christian Wood as his replacement made sense, but I honestly don't know. Like, even if they had Porzingis, like, how much different would the team be? Like, he's playing amazing right now, and I think he's good on the Wizards, and I hope he can stay healthy on the Wizards, especially because I have him on my fantasy team once again. But that's besides the point. But I think the Mavs have a bigger issue is they don't have like a complete team around Luca that like complement him. So I don't think it's having that one piece Porzingis it would make the Mavs any better than they are right now.
That's a fair point. Especially when they're paying guys like Davis Bertans and Tim Hardaway Jr., who by the way completely sucks now, and I don't know why he just sucks.
He's
But
so
they're paying
inconsistent. He's just
right, right.
like he some games he'll do amazing and other games like he's a no show.
Right. It just sucks. This Mavs team is starting to become predictable where it kind of reminds me of that James Harden esque team on the Rockets where it would just be a one man show, kind of pass it out to like a PJ Tucker or whoever else was on that team. You know what I
Eric
mean? Like
Gordon,
Eric
yeah.
Gordon, Covington, like Spencer Dinwiddie in this situation is that Eric Gordon. You know what I mean? And it just I don't know. This team is starting to become predictable. This 5 out offense, this ISO ball offense through one player, and it sucks because Luka's such a great player. He's a generational talent. So it definitely sucks to see that happen.
Yeah, Jokic on that team.
Could you imagine? That
Oh
would be
yeah,
Actually,
right.
bring up Jokic. Like, what's up with Nuggets? I mean, I know they're second seed, but like, um, I don't know. I feel like that's because they're not being challenged. I feel like a lot of their wins have just been like very narrow wins, and like MPJ's been dealing with injuries, Jamal Murray's been dealing with injuries. Still, like they're both getting back into it. But even though they have second seed, do you think they can like keep that second seed?
well. It's kind of weird because looking at it, their team is just so unique. Like they've got great players, but also at the same time, these players individually don't scare you. It all kind of runs through Jokic. But at the same time, we've got guys that have shown that they can ball out. Like we've got guys like Michael Porter Jr. that can hit like 7 threes a game and just have a crazy offensive game. Then they've got guys like Jamal Murray, who we've seen in the bubble, and of course this is pre-injury, but he's been insane, and who he's starting to kind of slowly get that back. But I don't know, man. This team is kind of hit or miss with me, and I don't really know how it's going to go until the playoffs happen.
I don't want to
Aaron
count them out
Gordon's
though.
been doing really good too. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying Aaron Gordon is doing really good too. Like he's been this easily the second best player right now on the team.
Right, right. And
Uh,
they've got guys too, like Bruce Brown's been great. Caldwell Pope has been insane too. So it's like they've got the personnel to be a great team, but I don't know. It just doesn't. I just don't feel it with them. You know what I mean?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like when I watch their game, I'm just like, like they get narrow wins, and I don't feel like they're a threat. But I mean, they got the second seed right now, so let's see what happens.
yeah, I have a few questions that I kind of want to follow up with you guys on. Um, All right. When is Luca a free agent?
I honestly I don't know, but I believe he's still on his rookie contract. But let me double check that for you,
Yeah.
and I'll get back to you. Do you have a
Yeah.
question for
It's
Narf,
not until
maybe?
2027.
Damn.
Yeah, so he's there for a minute, and I don't know if they can bring in some significant talent within those seasons, but I really do hope his like his career doesn't get wasted in Mavericks just being a mid team.
Yeah. It'd be so sad to see, dude. Like, that's why I was asking. Well, he's definitely committed, so somebody's gonna have to make some of that work. But I don't know
I
how they're gonna
mean,
do
we've
it.
seen star players demand a trade, so there's always that route.
Okay, that's definitely a topic for a different podcast then. Um, and any thoughts about the Lakers? Okay,
Uh,
moving on. No.
yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay. Speaking of, God, I really don't want to discuss this, dude. But uh, how are we feeling about like the unfortunate state of health within the NBA, like these injuries, man?
Well,
Oh,
okay, I want to start this off just
please do.
because, oh my goodness, my Toronto Raptors can't catch a break. Holy, it's like one player comes back, four more gets injured, and like right now, I think they're like, what? They're eighth in the seed in the Eastern standings, but
Correct.
it's tough. Like I want to watch them, like be one of the contending teams. Like I think they have the talent for it, and they always find those hidden gems. So I want to see all of them play together, but it's tough to watch, with the Raptors having so many injuries. But not only them, like there's so many star players that are out. Like Kate Cunningham just got injured. Um, Gordon Hayward, I know he's not a star player, but he got injured. Hornets fans probably don't like hearing that news. Denver, I said they got some injuries, but they just came back from huge injuries, so I think that's something that was supposed to happen, and they're working their way around. But like Kawhi Leonard, like he's always day to day, like you don't know what his status is. Now, Paul George is out. Anthony Davis and LeBron James are always like, injury scared. Jimmy Butler. So yeah, there's a lot of injuries throughout the NBA. And do you guys have any idea like why it might be happening?
Honestly, it makes no sense. If there was a season for this to happen, it would have been last season where there was a shorter off season with everyone coming back because of the pandemic and whatnot, and they kind of shortened that season. So that makes sense for last season to have all these injuries. But for this season to have all the injuries when they had a full off season, it's just kind of weird. Especially because like a lot of these teams where their players are getting hurt didn't really have a deep playoff run. I mean, if we go ahead and look at the Raptors, they didn't like they got bounced out. What was it, the second round or the first round?
I think it was against the 76ers in the first round.
Right. So that wasn't like a deep playoff run, and all these guys are getting hurt. The Pistons right now, they're going through a lot of injuries with Cade, and Killian Hayes is their starting point guard. So that just goes to show that they don't really have that much depth right now. And then of course right now there's a lot of like, illnesses going around. It's that time of season. It's the end of November,
Right.
going to December. So that makes sense. Like the Nuggets were basically like all in the hospital last week where Jokic got sick and then all these players were getting sick left and right. So that makes sense to a certain extent. But the injuries in general, I don't know if this is just a new wave, and you guys tell me what you guys think, but like is the NBA and like these franchises finally starting to take in consideration their players' health a lot more? Because like we know that Kawhi is a player that they started the load management with, but then now it seems like they're starting to do it with more and more players. Like Jimmy Butler, he's kind of known to miss maybe 15-20 games a season, but it seems really preemptive to start taking him out now. The Warriors are resting their starting lineup like every 3 games. It's crazy to me.
I think with the Warriors, I feel like they know what their goal is, and I think they're trying to just keep the players healthy for end of the season. They're not trying to get top seed. I think they're confident in themselves to be a contender, regardless of what seed they get it, as long as they make the playoff. But as far as like other teams, like maybe they're being a little bit more cautious with their players. Not trying to force them to come back from injury or like taking longer time out when they do get hurt, and just to give them a longer time to recover. But it's crazy to see like star players from so many teams hurt right now, like and they're not like short term injuries, like they're like a month long, like Siakam, Harden, Lillard, Maxi, like all these guys are just like it's crazy to see how many players are getting hurt right now, and it's not looking like it's like a day to day injury. It's like a month long injury, and that to be honest, I think it's just the game's gotten a lot more physical, as as weird as that is to say, because we haven't seen physicality in a long time in the NBA. Like, but I feel like players like the skill gap has gotten a lot less, so people are definitely able to check like star players now, and I think that's like challenging them to play harder, and because of that, a lot more players are just getting hurt.
Like you said, something really interesting where you were saying that the skill gap is kind of lessened. I agree. One thing that I found pretty interesting is how some of these players are getting thrown into the starting lineup where they would basically be on the borderline of the G League and the NBA. For example, Killian Hayes is getting thrown into that, like, as a starting lineup in the Pistons. And he's not doing too bad. You got guys like Shake Milton and the Anthony Milton. I know I like Milton, but I'm just gonna put him in the mix here. But these guys are dropping like a ton of points, ton of assists, and I think they're like basically
Bobo.
like Bobo. He's another guy. These players are like they're basically dropping near triple double numbers, and they're going off and they're winning games. And we talked about it earlier how the West their standings are kind of a clusterfuck.
Mhm.
Looking back at it, this might be a reason why. You know what I mean? Because all these injuries are kind of making some team win games and making some team lose games, but I I guess there is a plus and minus effect because it's great to see some of these players kind of get thrown into roles and be valuable. For example, Jose Alvarado last year, he wouldn't have been a player that would be in the NBA if it weren't for injuries that happened last year. And he's a fun player. So I think in that aspect, it's not totally bad as long as these players come back fully healthy.
Yep. I mean, I just want to see them in the playoff time. That's all I hope for. But
Right,
besides that,
right.
I think there hasn't been any crazy injury, like no ACL tears, no, none of that. Well, at least with star players. I don't know if any um other players had those kind of injuries yet. But yeah, and then we have like Rob Williams coming back from injury in December. So I think like, after All-Star break, it's gonna get crazy. Players teams are gonna be healthy, hopefully, and then we'll see the full potential of teams.
Oh, so you did bring up an interesting question that you said before that I just want to address. You said, is there's like a reason why it's happening? I don't think there's a like like the NBA season's going on and people are getting injured. I don't think there's a necessarily like a causality that goes alongside it. So I don't know. It's hard to put a finger on any sort of like hardcore reason. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a hard question to ask, man.
Yeah, I
um,
mean, probably got to do a little like study on it and see what's causing it. But yeah, I mean, it's giving a lot of these younger players or less known names to like become like breakout stars and giving them opportunities. So it's great to see these guys stepping up to the occasion, and maybe we should add like two more teams to the NBA so these guys can like join those teams and
I would love that.
that'd be so sick.
I would love that, honestly.
Honestly, you know what? I'm very thankful for that's happening, and I think we're gonna enter the Thanksgiving segment that Aray and y'all have brought up. I'll be quick with mine. I'm thankful that my Nets exist and the play-in tournament exists as well because technically they're eligible to participate. Okay, that's all me.
Oh man. So in the spirit of Thanksgiving, we want to kind of say some things that we're thankful for in the NBA season. And Shaman, Shaman, you had a funny one. I like that, man. So mine was gonna be that I'm thankful that we've got a healthy AD this season. I'm not an AD fan or anything like that. Somehow he made the top 75 NBA top 75, but he's kind of starting to live up to it because he's putting up monster numbers and he looks like a beast. He's not taking any more stupid shots from three, where he's not really been hitting them the last few years, but he looks like that Pelicans AD where he's just been a monster in the paint. And that's fun to see. He put up a stat line the other day. He was like 37, 38 points, 20 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 5 steals. That's insane. And, I'm thankful to see a healthy AD, at least for the time being. What about you, Narf?
Man, I remember I was telling you guys before the podcast started. I can't think of something to be thankful for because there's so many injuries in the NBA right now. But you know what? I'll be thankful for one thing. AD I think got exposed this season, and I think last season too. But really this season for not being that superstar player, MVP caliber player that he is. Like he's not honestly that great. He's like he's just a normal. I wouldn't say a normal, but he's like an all-star center. That's about it. So I'm grateful that he got humbled down to that status because I hated how overrated he was. So I know it's a little petty for me to say that, but that's what I'm grateful for.
So we didn't discuss this with each other. Do we kind of have a similar theme here, Narf, with
Oh, what do you
AD?
mean?
Because I was talking about AD and you were too.
Yeah. I
Uh,
guess so.
that's
Yeah,
funny.
I think well, something that really pissed me off was the fact that AD was always being compared with like Giannis, and I just couldn't stand those conversations. Like, how can you compare the two when Giannis is just so much better and he's always working on his game? He's never complaining. And then there's AD, like this dude, like gets pushed a little bit and he'll be crying on the ground and just like day to day. So yeah, I'm
Day to
kind of
day
grateful to
Davis.
see that.
Man, we're supposed to do something we're thankful for, not something that we're petty thankful for. That's hilarious.
Okay, well, if you want to talk about something we're thankful for, it's great to see like, players like Kawhi back into the, NBA. Players like Dame also playing this season and Zion's back. So I'm glad to see all these star players that are coming back. I know a lot of players are dealing with injuries, so I wish them the best and hope this season goes amazing because it's very competitive. I'm very thankful that it's competitive. Like any given night, there's a game going on. I'll be wanting to watch it just because I know, that there's great chance of upsets. Magics could win a game somehow. The entire NBA has just been great this season. So yeah, I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, parity exists, and like it's not like in between at 2015 to 2019 where it was just okay, it's Warriors and someone else on the East side. Thank God.
I agree. I love that. It gives us something to talk about. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's
Yep.
definitely been a fun, entertaining NBA season because of that.
That's kind of all I had, man. Thank you guys for joining the East Coast Browncast, and we hope to see you guys in the next episode.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, take it easy. Make sure you guys check out our other podcasts on the ECB Podcast Network. We've got a bunch of other ones, some other basketball one. We've got an entertainment one and an anime one coming soon. We have more coming too in the future. So make sure you guys check out our website. The link will be in the description. And with that, guys, peace out. Catch you guys in the next pod.